help you ignite your potential.
Awesome. So that's a great commercial from Truist talking about releasing our potential. And that's one of the great things about Kumdo is it helps us to do that, really helps us to be our best and best version of ourselves. So thank you, Truist. So it is my pleasure at this point to introduce our guest speaker. His name is Dr. Ramfis Marquez, PhD, and he is a clinically trained clinical psychologist working as a professional counselor and director of the behavioral health practice in a federally qualified health center in Prince William County. And he's also, interestingly, an eighth degree black belt in Hapkido, Shinmu Hapkido. And he was under the direct tutelage of Dojunim Jihan-jae, and having been trained in Korean swordsmanship for many years. So Dr. Marquez, he does a lot of research around the benefits of traditional martial arts training for people with behavioral and emotional disorders. So want to welcome Dr. Marquez and turn it over to you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me today. I hope everybody's blessed in this beautiful day. I'm ready to see these competitions. This is going to be magnificent. I'm in love with the sword arts. Um, Both Japanese and Korean sword arts are beautiful. Um, so when you guys approached me about talking about the benefits of martial arts training for emotional health, I was very excited. This has been actually my area of research for about uh, 13 years of my life. And I dedicated my dissertation, a period of almost 5 years of research, just to this subject, specifically around children with behavioral disorders. In that process, I found that the martial arts, traditional martial arts specifically, martial arts like Kumdo, Kendo, Judo, Karate Do, Hapkido, Aikido, anything that has that context of the way, the Do, have great benefit to individuals in multiple domains of their life, not just physically, as the video that you presented earlier proposes, but also psychologically, emotionally, behavioral function gets impacted by this. And it's in the strong context that martial arts have um, with um, with discipline, meditation, which in psychology we use a similar process of that we call grounding to work with our patients, especially when they're struggling with things like depression, anxiety, post-traumatic stress disorder. Um, I put together a little PowerPoint. If you can go to the next page. So during my research, what I found is that martial arts had great psychotherapeutic benefits. To the rate that was so interesting to see in a social study, you generally speaking, anything that has a rate of benefit in amelioration of symptoms, in decreasing symptoms, the rate of maybe 70% is statistically significant. And that was the case for all of the studies that I explore and all of the research that I conducted on this subject. The benefits on management of symptoms, specifically behavioral symptoms and emotional symptoms, was 70% or above. To be quite honest, the rate of benefit in many cases was higher than many of the talk therapy dynamics that we study every day, and that we do. I personally do. I'm a trained therapist, and I run a practice where we see thousands of people every year. And the rate of benefit of martial arts was higher in many domains of function than even talk therapy, many of the models of talk therapy that we use today. The reason for this struck my curiosity, and the reason for was the combination. Can we go to the next slide? Was again the combination of emotional health and physical health. Um, at a physical level, martial arts impact the neurological and the endocrinal function, and it helps increase adrenaline, as your video actually very correctly mentioned earlier. And by increasing adrenaline, endorphin increases. Um, the increase in endorphin then impacts the secretion of serotonin and dopamine, which are the chemicals that are attributed to be controlling chemicals in terms of executive function, meaning how we interact with the world. It also helps with emotions. In the same context of serotonin and dopamine, these are the key component neurotransmitters that actually help with emotions and help with emotional health, as in people that experience symptoms of depression, for example, they get a serotonin neuroinhibitor of some sort, or an uptake of some sort. Um, Things that bring the serotonin or bring the dopamine up. Arts like Gumdo, they do that naturally. So in that sense, you are getting the benefits that you would get potentially from medications. The more that you train, the more time you dedicate on this, the more adrenaline brings into the body, the more endorphins come into the body, the higher the rates of serotonin and dopamine, and the benefits of emotional health from those. Additionally, another great component, and this is peculiar and particular specifically to Korean martial arts, is the meditative training that is done in many dojangs called Danjon Hop Hop or Danjon breathing, regularly referred to as Danjon breathing in the West. Danjon breathing actually impacts another chemical of the body that is called oxytocin. And oxytocin is most recognized or known as the love hormone. But research has suggested that meditation, regular meditation, and practices like yoga and Tai Chi impact the oxytocin secretion. So it also helps modulate emotions and it helps you feel better. Think about it. This is the hormone that is referred to as the love hormone. Usually, when you're in love, you feel very well, very elevated, very elated. So what does that mean to the day-to-day function? If we can go to the next slide. It means that your psychological health will be significantly impacted. Uh, Martial arts in itself has a component of self-esteem enhancement. I've been working with at-risk youth for decades now. More than 25 years I've been working with at-risk youth. And I've run programs for children that, because martial arts are financially sometimes a commodity, I have dedicated a lot of my time to develop programs that can access at-risk communities where children live that could not otherwise afford martial arts training. Um, this helps them come out of the space of bullying, the space of gangs, the space of school detentions and problems in school, but it also helps them see themselves in a different light. So in that sense, I have seen great benefit of martial arts training for children in terms of self-esteem. On the general context of the population outside of the at-risk community, I refer children to do martial arts training regularly. Generally speaking, traditional martial arts. Again, I want to emphasize that notion. Nothing against the modern martial arts or the more combative martial arts that has been recently developed in recent years, but there's very little research to support the benefits of these arts beyond the physical aspect of it. Generally speaking, the benefits that I'm discussing are martial arts that combine physical function, physical health, and emotional health in the context of meditation and grounding exercises. Another great component is actually hyungs or kata in the Japanese language, hyungs in the Korean, which are the forms that many traditional martial arts have. Some Gomdo schools have sword forms. Some uh, Gomsul schools have sword forms also, and these are quite beneficial to mental health because it's a process of grounding, and grounding is an incredibly important aspect of managing emotions and managing emotional health in general. Um, Martial arts help kids and adults and women and everybody that practice them increase their confidence, because you can actually, can you go back, that you can actually find yourself in a space where you learn to to manage yourself and learn your capabilities. So in saying that, it gives you a degree of inner peace and inner confidence. It also helps with the notion of self-discipline. You have to master yourself when you're doing martial arts because it involves continuous practice and management of frustration and management even of anger when you are in a competitive sport like Kumdo. You have to mitigate the context of anger to increase your performance and be able to clearly follow the path of competition. Your motivation gets enhanced with training, and that goes directly. Motivation is connected to neural function also. Um, and your ability to self monitor, which is something that a lot of children with ADHD struggle with, it gets really impacted because as you're training, you become self aware of your whole body function. And you need to look at little details like your footwork, your body connection, hand eye coordination, and things of this nature that are very peculiar and very specific to training in martial arts. So you become more kinetically aware and become more connected with your mind and body. I mentioned emotional modulation, and I think that if anything, that's one of the best aspects of martial arts. I've been training in martial arts since I'm 5 years old. I just turned 48 recently. Um, and I want to say that personally, having struggled all my life with behavioral disorders like ADHD and some educational deficits, martial arts gave me the ability to come to a space where I hold two master's degrees and a PhD after having completed a bachelor's degree early in my career. Statistically, I attribute this to the great amount of confidence and self-discipline and motivation that martial arts gave me early on in my life. I come from a generation and from a country that psychotherapy for children or psychotropic medication for children was non-existent, and my father was very smart to identify that I had some difficulties in my life, and he said, "Let me give you something that will actually help you." And he gave me a gift of martial arts. So that's one thing that I always tell parents with kids that have different behavioral functions. And I tell all adults, look for this aspect of life because this is something that will give you great peace and harmony within you, but it also will have a lot of greater benefits for you beyond just the physicality. In terms of social benefits, if we can go to the next slide, you will see that the majority of martial artists are leaders in your community. I was just talking to Frank, who's a leader, definitely a leader in his community. I bank at his bank, and it's one of the best banks in the area. Um, and but in that sense, there's a context within it, and it's the mastery of the martial aspect of discipline and function within that context that martial arts gives you. Martial arts, generally speaking, most of the traditional martial arts follow a moral code. Um, and from culture to culture, they have very different names. But in that sense, that moral code helps individuals get to a space where they can actually be healthier members of their society. That code of morals that martial arts have makes people be more compassionate, be more conscious individuals socially, seek social justice at all times, and just be respectful adults. Um, I think that that's for the most part what I had for my presentation today. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them if I can.
And thank you, Dr. Marquez. That was awesome presentation. And to hear your personal journey and how martial arts helped you personally as well. That's so awesome. And I'm just trying to see here if there's any questions. Doesn't seem like there's any questions at the moment. This again, encourage our attendees. If you have any questions, don't hesitate. Don't be shy. Please put your questions in the window, the Q&A window, and we'll try to get those answered. And if they come in throughout the event, we can address them as they come in. But one question I have for you, Dr. Marquez, is, and I think we're about to start the matches, but real quick, You mentioned to me previously on the phone that your dojo name Jihan Jae, he appeared in a Bruce Lee movie. Is that correct?
He did. He was actually in the Game of Death.
That's so
The
cool.
Game of Death is a pagoda level fighting scene that has a pagoda level fighting scene where Bruce Lee trains and fights different martial arts. And he plays Hapkido and Doyonim Jihanje right under his art. I mean, it was a way of honoring his good friend. Doyonim Jihanje and Bruce Lee were very good friends. I have a lot of very nice pictures of them together with Bruce Lee's children and wife. And for his 82nd birthday, we went to Washington State and visited the late Bruce Lee's wife, and we visited his grave and his museum. And we spent a lot of time with the widow of Mr. Lee or Sifu Lee. Um, yes, I have a lot of stories about that. Yes, it's a very fun experience to learn with somebody that has that aspect of history because Bruce Lee was my one of my heroes growing up. I think everybody that does martial art had Bruce Lee as a hero growing up, right?
Yeah, he's definitely a legend in many respects. So that's awesome. Thank you so much. And um, I like your background that you have there. It seems you have like it looks like a Kumdo helmet
I
and
do. I
some,
have. This is my old armor.
oh, the whole armor is there. Wow,
Yes,
wow,
yes.
fantastic,
Been
fantastic.
retired for a long time.
You got to come and join us sometime and
I
practice.
do. I do. I'm getting my COVID shot next week. So
All
after
right,
that, I can travel.
super, super. Well, Dr. Marquez, in my background, you can see we have our commemorative towel for this event. It's a hand towel for the Kumdo Wang tournament that we're having today, and we'd like to offer this to you as a gift.
Oh, that would be
Just
magnificent.
to thank you so much for being a part of this, and really really appreciate your presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
I greatly appreciate the invitation. Thank you. Fascinated by the first match, um, and and I have to say, in a society where the majority of teens nowadays spend a lot of time behind the screen of a cell phone or a tablet, to see the physical performance of this young man, you mentioned they were 16.
Yeah, Brandon's
Oh,
16,
16.
Sean is 14.
Wow, that's incredible. That's incredible. That the level of mastery that these two young men are showing there is beyond their age. That was very, very impressive. The economy of motion, the way they're moving, um, it is very, very impressive.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Marquez. Yeah, it's really a result of of Grandmaster Ching's teaching. He really strives to teach Komdo at a world-class professional level, and so
Yeah,
um, you really see that here at USHRK.
you can tell. But this is something that these young men are going to take for the rest of their life. Beyond this dojan, beyond this competition, this is something, the physicality of it, the benefits that this level of training brings them. They know that they can overcome anything.
And Sean is in blue, right?
Yes, sir. So Sean is going to be blue side and Brandon is going to be white side.
Um,
Well, and the level of training and the impact of training, the cardiovascular impact of training, probably benefits whatever condition he has at this point. At least keeps him lean and in a body weight and a body function of blood flow and cardiovascular that is superb. You cannot engage in that level of movement if your body function is not optimal.
Trying to make room. The judges saw that they weren't going anywhere and decided to make them stop.
And he's growing fast. Like over the summer, he grew like a foot. So
Yeah. Good for him.
it's working well for him.
The harmony of the mind-body connection is very present, and that's also something that a lot of people don't have in modern society because we're extremely sedentary. The way that he was responding in a successive motion to the actions of the opponent was very, very impressive. Incredible external, internal connection.
Yes. So when we start their training at the lower levels, it's one of the basics that we keep track of before we go into more advanced techniques. It's a very key thing that we focus on. Even though there's flashier techniques, it's pointless unless you're able to control with, all of your body. Once you understand your body, then we'll move on to the more impressive, more technical techniques that we have.
Yeah, it shows that there's a lot of dedication in that level of training.
Seems like time's up, and they're going to be
Time
going
is
into
up.
overtime.
Sudden death.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of winning by 2 points, whoever scores first wins.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Yes. Their skills are very good. One of the chat comments was that their skills are incredible and they are very good. Yes. Sean, I should point out the younger one in blue. He actually competed in Korea in a national tournament there and placed in that tournament. It was televised in South Korea also. So Sean is quite accomplished at a young age of 14. This is the final for the youth black belt. Whoever wins this is going to be first place.
All right, you got a voice strike there.
Waist strike.
A reverse waist strike. That's one of the hardest points to get because it has to be completely clear, and since you have to go through at such a close angle, it has to be really hard.
Absolutely.
I was just noticing the amount of energy that comes from the internal aspect of key hop, of this shouting, and that's what we call in psychology resonance. And resonance helps with stress liberation and stress relief. Um, and you can see how they're so focused in the moment and well grounded, and when they're ready to explode, the key hop comes out, and all of that energy and all of that resonance takes place. It gets connected to the whole body. In Hapkido, we call it the hap, the coordination, the harmony of body, emotion, and mind and spirit. But in psychology, this is one of the things that we explore the most with people when they're trying to work on stress management and stress relief. We even tell people, like commonly known, when you feel very stressed, scream out. So you're allowing the resonance of your body to bring all of that stress and hormonal uh, process to come out on the adrenaline and just explode out of your body. Stress comes with cortisol. And cortisol tends to be toxic to the brain when during long periods of time. So I can see how this art is so beneficial, just in general for health, but in the psychological aspects of it, you can see in every single detail. You guys train on it every day, and I'm sure you're benefiting from them to point out for people that don't think beyond. Oh well, this is just a process of the art.
Wow, that's awesome. Thank you. Thank you for the insight. It's what is that toxic chemical called that comes from
Cortisol is cortisol.
cortisol?
It's a stress hormone.
My goodness.
It gets irradiated in the brain when you're under stress, and it's basically it helps us go through to manage the stress, but it also causes the fight, flight, or freeze response. We're finished. So when you are stressed, when you're under duress, when you're in danger, the body goes into this space of fight, flight, or freeze. And the cortisol with the adrenaline are the guiding endocrinal responses of the body at that time. Um, when cortisol gets extended, like people that suffer from trauma, when you check their cortisol levels, are very high and they're always hyper aroused, and they develop a lot of physical ailments, a lot of body pain. They feel exhausted all the time, body aches also. Um, with one of the things that we do in therapy is allow people to go through the stage of relieving all of this cortisol out of the body. And one of the most common ways that we tell people to do it on a daily basis is just take a moment to let that all of that negativity or that negative energy, if you may, out. Um, Commonly, you tell a kid that is angry, just scream into a pillow or scream out of the window, right? When you're driving, open the window and scream out. So there is a purpose of it. It's the notion of the resonance. There's a neural response to resonance that is significant. I do a lot of resonance therapy also for relaxation with different hertz of music and sounds. This was very interesting to observe in how they actually react right before combat. I remember it put me back into my time as a child when our teacher used to tell us that we needed to keep up so strong that a fly would paralyze itself in mid-flight and just drop because we gave it a heart attack. A
Wow.
little legend, I guess, from childhood.
Yeah, that sounds like what Grandmaster Chang tells us to do too. Yeah, the giap is essential to um, you know um, you know delivering an effective blow. So
Right.
absolutely, that's amazing that your research um, backs that up. That's awesome.
It does. It does. From the resonance, even the resonance of the keyhub, when you lock the molars in a certain way, adrenalization happens in the body. Um, Dojonin, my teacher, calls it the super hormone. And when he explained it, a lot of people do not understand what he's trying to say. But when you go back to the science of it, the resonance activates the neural process in different ways, and different sounds will activate you in different ways. The Indians also have the notion of the which is supposedly the sound of the universe, and that brings you to a state of relaxation. The key hop, what does is activates the adrenaline hormones, and that's why the explosion happens in such a way.
See, Zhang Hyun is trying to provoke a reaction from Jinsun, but failed to do so. And Jinsun responds with a hori, or that is a waist strike. Jinsun counters with a head strike.
We're in a unique situation here at Truist. In COVID-19, our world easily faded away. When you think about it, all we really got is each other.
Our purpose here at Truist is to inspire and build better lives and communities. And you can see it all around this company.
I couldn't change the fact that he broke his hip. I couldn't change COVID-19. I could put up a basketball hoop. What seems so light and small for us can make such a difference in another person's life. You may not be able to do a lot of things, but do what you can.